Hello everyone. So for our today's topic, we have limit of transcendental function. So that's why our lesson objective today is to determine the limit involving trigonometric functions, logarithmic functions, and exponential functions. So suppose we are to evaluate these limits. Like for example, this one, limit of sine x as x approaches pi over 2. Yan. So just like any other ordinary limits that we have done, we just have to substitute this to our variable x. So we have sine of pi over 2. Therefore, our answer will be equal to, let's get our pen. This will be equal to 1. Okay. So suppose we have limit as x approaches 0 of square root of cosine x plus 3. This will be cosine 0. Once we substitute 0 to our x, cosine 0 is 1. So 1 plus 3 will be 4. Okay, so square root of 4 is 2. Okay. Now what about this? If we have limit of 9 all over e to the x plus 2 as x approaches 0, this 1 will be equal to 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. So we have 9 over 3 and the answer is 3. And so if we have limit of cosine x over 2 to the x as x approaches 0, again, this will be equal to 2 to the 0 or 1. Cosine of 0 is 1. So 1 over 1 is 1. Okay, so mga madadali lang muna tayo. Warm up lang muna. So we have this sine of 0 over 2. Sine 0 is 0. So 0 over 2 will be 0. Okay. Now what about if we have this? Cosine of 3 times 0, this will be 0. So cosine of 0 is 1. Tapos meron tayong 3 sa baba. So that's why this will be 1/3. Okay. So suppose meron naman tayong x over e to the x. So this will be 0 over 1. E to the 0 kasi is 1. No? So 0 over 1 will give us a 0. Okay. If we have this one, 4 yung numerator natin. Tapos as x approaches 0, this expression becomes cosine of 0, which is 1. So 4 over 1 is 4. Okay, for this one naman, as x approaches e, we have ln of e, which is 1. 5 over 1 is 5. Yan. Mga warm up lang muna tayo. If we have this, 3 over cosine of 6x, 6 times 0 will be 0. So cosine 0 again is 1. So 3 over 1 is 3. Ayan, para ma-reinforce sa atin that cosine of 0 is 1. E to the 0 is 1. Okay. Now, if we have this, medyo may gulat factor ng konti. Yan. This time, we're changing our variable x to t. So, as t approaches 0, this will become cosine 0, which is 1. Okay. Tapos, ito for e to the 0 is also 1. So, we have log of 1 to the base 2 is 0. So, numerator is 0 plus 4 times 1, that will be 4. Tapos sa baba naman, we have 0 plus 1, which is 1. Para magka-cancel lang to. So 1 times pi is pi. So we have second squared pi. Okay. So ano ba yung second squared pi? Nandito tayo sa pi. Kaya ang cosine natin is actually negative 1. So same as the secant of pi. Secant of pi is also negative 1. But then we're squaring that. So that will be positive 1. So we have 4 over 1 and therefore the answer will be 4. Okay, that's it. Let's change our color to a brighter yellow. Suppose we have this one naman. So as t approaches 2. So what we have is sine of 3 pi over 2. Sine of 3 pi over 2, where is that? It's located on this part, negative y-axis. So sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. Minus, this one will be 8 plus 1, so 9. We have log of 9 to the base 3. That will be 2. Okay? So medyo na-challenge tayo sa log natin. That means kailangan nating i-review siya kung nakalimutan ng konti. Tapos denominator, cosine of 2 pi over 3. 2 pi over 3 is on the second quadrant. So supposedly that's 1/2. Kaya lang since negative ang cosine sa second quadrant, we get negative 1/2 here. So what we have is negative 3 over negative 1/2. So that means our answer is positive 6. Okie dokie. So meron tayong mga special limits. Ito yung ating mga special limits na dapat i-take note natin. We have limit of sine x over x as x approaches 0 equal to 1. Tapos limit of 1 minus cosine x over x as x approaches 0, that is equal to 0. Tapos yung last one, limit of e to the x minus 1 over x as x approaches 0 is also equal to 1. Okay? So itong dalawang to, sila yung parehong equal sa 1. Tapos ito yung nagiging equal sa 0. Take note na hindi lang ito yung mga versions na like this one, hindi lang ito yung nag-i-equal sa 1. Siyempre, the reciprocal is also approaching 1. Like if you have limit of x over sine x, as x approaches 0, that will be equal to also to 1. If you have the reciprocal also of this, that will also be equal to 1. But if you interchange this, diba, subtraction is not commutative. If you interchange these terms, the resulting limit will be negative 1. Okay? Pero ito, if you interchange this, by the way, you cannot get the reciprocal of this since it's coming from a 0. But if you interchange this, again, if you have limit of cosine x minus 1 all over x, again, that will be 0. Kasi 0 parang lumalabas, nag-a-approach sa 0 yung ating numerator. That's why we have that for our 0. Okay. Okay, so here are the other versions of this special limits. We have limit of sine. We can actually replace x as cx. So pwedeng may coefficient tayo dun, say 2x. So dapat we should do the same thing with the denominator. So dapat whatever is the coefficient there, ganun din yung coefficient ng x sa denominator. Okay, for the property to be applied. So parang limit pa rin as x approaches 0 will still be equal to 1. So similarly, the same goes through the other two limits that we have. We can replace x by cx. Also on the denominator, same as for the exponent of e, that will also be on the denominator. Okay, so let's go to this particular example. So we can have sine of 3x over 3x, where the c here is equal to 3. This will be equal to 1. So let's get our pen. Okay. So this one is equal to 1. So if we get the reciprocal, ganun din yung property natin, no? Limit of 5x over sine 5x is also equal to 1. As long as this coefficient of x are equal. Okay. And then if we have 1 minus cosine of 2x over 2x, this will be equal to 0. Tapos if we have cosine 7x minus 1 over 7x, same dapat, no? This will also be equal to 0. Okay? Also, if we have e to the 4x minus 1 over 4x, yung property natin, di ba, dapat, nasan yung property natin? Dapat yung e yung nauuna, no? Take note, subtraction is not commutative, no? So, otherwise, magiging negative 1. So dapat yung e term ang mauuna. Okay? So, this is equal to 1. Pero kapag binaliktad natin, ayun, dapat ito yung nasa unahan. No? So, pag nabaliktad, this will be negative 1. Okay? So, take note of those changes. Now, if we have this one, limit of sine 3x over 5x, take note this coefficient and this coefficient are not the same. So, dapat gawin natin silang equal. Take note that we cannot do anything about this one. Kasi nasa loob siya, no? It's within the sine function. So, but we can do something with this, no? We can make this equal to 3. So, parang isa sa kanila kasi kailangan mag-adjust. So, it's either we make 3 equal to 5 or we make 5 equal to 3. Dapat same sila, no? So, it's easier to make this 5 here equal to a 3. So, we multiply this by 3 over 5. So, we can get rid of 5 and turn this into a 3. So, multiplier natin will be 3 over 5 for both numerator and denominator. Yan, para as if nag-multiply lang tayo by 1. Okay. So, magka-cancel yung 5 once we multiply this factors. Ayan. So, magiging 3x na lang. Okay. So, magiging 3x. Tapos at the same time, we applied commutative property here, placing this factor on on the first part, no? So 3/5 times sine 3x, okay? So kita na natin na pwede na nating apply yung limit property dito. Yan, actually we can bring out the constant here, the coefficient outside, so that it becomes the coefficient of the limit. Tapos ito, pag kinuha natin yung limit nito, itong fraction na to na nakabox, that is just equal to 1. So we have 3/5 times 1, so it's just 3/5. Tingnan natin kung makaka-establish tayo ng shortcut. We have 12x over sine 7x. Sabi natin, yung nandito na walang sine function, siya yung mag-a-adjust. So we multiply this by 7 over 12. We want to turn this into a 7 and at the same time get rid of 12. So we multiply by 7 over 12. So we do the same thing on the denominator, no, para we're not changing the value of the given. Okay. So again, if we apply multiplication, the 12 will cancel out. So it will just be 7x. Tapos yung 7, 12, nilagay na naman natin sa unahan by commutative property. Tapos pwede natin i-combine to. Diba? That will still be equal to a 1. So what's left is 1 over 7 over 12 or the reciprocal, which is 12 over 7. Ayun. So makikita natin dito na pag ganito yung given, it's just a matter of copying the coefficients of x and that becomes our answer. Diba? Copying the coefficient of x, diba? That becomes our answer. Yan, si 12 over 7. So kapag meron tayo kunwari sine of say 99x, if we get the limit of this as x approaches 0, tapos sa baba meron kang say 33x. Yan, you can just divide this, no? 99 over 33, so that gives us 3. So, ayun lang pala yung pinaka-shortcut for this. Okay? Now, what about if we're given with this one? 1 minus cosine of 2x over 2x. Okay lang yan, ano? 0 lang siya. Pero what if the denominator is 3x? So, again, siya yung mag-a-adjust for us to apply our property, our special limit, no? So we multiply by 2/3. Again, ang principle is we want to turn this into a 2 and at the same time, we have to get rid of the 3. Okay? So multiplying that, we cancel the 3, magiging 2x na siya. And at the same time, sulat natin yung 2/3 sa unahan. So we group this, kaya lagay natin siya sa grouping symbol kasi we have a binomial for that. Okay, we can cancel this factor. The limit of this one, as x approaches 0, the limit of that box expression is 0. So we have 2/3 times 0, and that will be just a 0. Okay, now let's go to this example. We have e to the 4x minus 1 over 4x. We know that is equal to a 1. What if we make the exponent of e equal to 3x? Okay. So si 4x yung mag-a-adjust ito, no? So we multiply by 3/4, correct. So if you answer 3/4, you are correct. So we can cancel the 4. So we have this one. At the same time, you notice, no? We write this in front, no? Para mas madali nating mag-group yung dapat na magkasama dun sa special limit natin. So this will be grouped together kasi the limit of that is equal to 1. Okay, so we have 3/4 times 1, which is 3/4 or 3/4 over 1, diba? 3/4 pa din. And as you can see, it's just a matter of copying that coefficient of x there and the coefficient of x on the denominator so that this becomes our answer. Okay, parang yun din yung shortcut. That's why if we have the limit as x approaches 0, say of e to the 1000x minus 1 over, say, 5x, we can just have 1000 over 5. So the answer will be 200. Ayun. O, diba? That's our shortcut for this case. Now, what about this example? We have limit of sine 5x over 6x. What is our answer? That will be 5/6. Okay. Tapos for this one, this will just be 0. Tapos for this one naman, we can just have 16 over 4. So that makes it a 4. Okay, that will be parang warm up natin, warm up examples, no? What about this one? We have 3 over 6. So that will just be 1/2. Tapos pag meron naman tayo nito, we can just have this as 0. If we have this, that will just be 3 over 1. So that makes it a 3. Okay. What about this one? Meron tayong sine 5x over sine 2x. 5 halves kaya ang answer dito. Okay. So let's see kung meron tayong ganito, we can write this actually as, di ba kailangan niya ng denominator na 5x, ito kailangan niya ng denominator na 2x. So para magkasundo sila, kunin natin yung LCD ng 5 and 2, which is 10, no? So we divide by 10x. So sine 5x over 10x, which is 2 times 5x. Tapos sa baba, we have sine of 2x. Sorry for the crooked line. Tapos gagawin naman natin 5 of 2x. 5 times 2x. And then we have the limit as x approaches as 0. Okay? So ito magiging, di ba parang pwede natin sabihin, limit of the fraction is equal to the limit of the numerator over the limit of the denominator. So parang siya yung magsasama. So we have the box expressions being equal to 1. So sa taas meron kang 1/2. Sa baba meron kang 1/5. So this will result to 5/2. Yun. So yung mga naghinala, nagsuspecha na we can just get the coefficients here for our answer, you are correct. Okay, now let's take a look at ayun, bali yung ginamit natin na property. Let's have this one. Alin kaya dito yung magagamit natin sa mga special limits na ito? Okay? So meron tayong cotangent, so we can express that as cosine over sine. Tapos ito naman, this is sine, 1 over sine. So we can write that as limit as x approaches 0. Sa taas natin, that will be cosine of 5x over sine of 5x. Sa baba naman, we have 1 over sine 3x. Okay. So ang kailangan nito ay 3x. Ito naman ang kailangan niya 5x. So katulad ng ginawa natin kanina, we multiply by 15x, no? Yung ating LCD or least common multiple rather, LCM ng 5 and 3. So 15x. Okay, so pagsasamahin natin yun, gagawin natin itong 3 times 5x. Okay, so we have limit as x approaches 0, we have a complex fraction. Yan, gawin natin itong 3 times 5x. At the same time, yung 3 lagay natin sa unahan. Together with the cosine 5x. So may matitira ka dong 5x over sine 5x. Sila yung pinagsama natin. Tapos sa baba, meron tayong, ito naman, ihiwalay natin yung 5, tapos si 3x yung ititira. So 5, 3x over sine 3x. Okay, so again, the reciprocal also applies, no? Kahit na si cx yung nasa taas, si sine cx yung nasa baba, equal pa rin yun sa 1. Okay, so this will be equal to 1. This will be equal to 1 as x approaches 0. Okay, so ito na lang, no? Cosine of 5 times 0 is 1. So we have this 1 din to. So we have 3/5 for our answer. Okay, so this time it's the reciprocal of these numbers that we see here. Okay, kasi nasa baba lalabas, no, yung sine. Diba? This is cosine over sine, this is 1 over sine. Yan, that's why we are getting the reciprocal. Okay? So that's for our example. Now let's have this one, another example. We have limit of tangent x over x as x approaches 0. You can try this and pause our video first. Tingnan natin kung alin dito yung magagamit nyo. Yan, you can pause the video for a while and get a scratch paper and try this on your own. Okay. So let's see if you are getting it correctly. Okay, assuming na-pause nyo na yung video. Okay, so we will have limit. We express, para magamit natin to, we express the tangent in terms of sine. No? So we have limit as x approaches 0 of sine x over cosine x. That's why your identities are very important. That's for our numerator. over x. So we can combine this and this one. So pwede nating sabing limit as x approaches 0, diba? We can multiply this actually by the reciprocal of this one. So 1 over x mapupunta sa taas, no? Sin x over x yung pagsasamahin natin. Okay, tapos meron ka ditong 1 over cosine x. Yan. Anyway, limit of a product is equal to the product of their limits. So ito, using this one, this fraction, it approaches the value of 1 as x approaches 0. This is also approaching 1 as x approaches 0. So we have 1 times 1, and so the limit value is equal to 1. Okay. Now, for this example, ayan, meron na naman tayong limit of sine x times tangent squared of 2x. This time, magkaiba. Tapos, wala tayong denominator, no? So, we produce a denominator dapat. Okay? So, we have limit. Kailangan magamit natin yung ating, nasan yung ating properties? Ayan, yung limits natin, special limits. So, we have sine x here. Tapos, tangent squared, no? So, that means we'll be squaring the fraction sine squared over 2x. Tangent is sine over cosine, pero we have to square them, no? Kasi naka-square yung fraction. Okay? We squared the numerator and denominator. Okay, so ayan po ang lumabas. Remember, sine squared 2x to, no? So, ano ba yung sine 2x? That is actually 2 sine x cosine x, di ba? Using our identity, our double angle identity. So, we have sine x here. Tapos, sine 2x is 2 sine x cosine x. Pero since we're squaring that, di ba? We'll be squaring each of those factors. So, 2, dito natin lagay, sine 2x from our double angle identity is 2 sine x cosine x. So, we need to square this, each of this. So, that will be 4 sine squared x cosine squared x. Ang purpose natin ito is para makombine siya with that. Okay? Tapos sa baba, we have cosine squared 2x. We don't have a problem with that kasi anyway, it's equal to 1. So we can just define it like that, no? Cosine squared 2x. Okay. So ayun, define na naman to, no? Ayan, anyway, kahit pala hindi na natin siya gamitan ng property, plain substitution lang kasi it will not be of the form 0 over 0. Kasi 'di ba ang 0 lang is the numerator part. 'Di ba? That will be sine cube, no? So parang meron kang 4 sine cube x. Pero the rest kasi ay non-zero na. Okay? Like this cosine squared 0 is 1. Cosine squared of 0 is also 1, 'di ba? Ayan, so meron tayong 0 over 1. Ito lang yung factor na magzi-0. So 0, 0 yung numerator. Pero 1 naman yung denominator. That's why the answer here is 0. In fact, dito lang pala pwede na nating ma-recognize. Sorry for the trouble. Ayan, 0 na kagad siya. Kasi 0 over 1. Okay. Now, let's take a look at our time for questions. Let's take a look at the questions that we have here. Ayan, tingnan natin yung ating question number 1. Let's have this limit. Okay, fast forwarding our timer, we can just substitute the pi over 4 to our x, tangent of 3 pi over 4 plus 2 raised to pi over 4. So the pi will cancel out. Tangent of 3 pi over 4. Reference angle natin is pi over 4 where the tangent is 1. Pero it's on the second quadrant. That's why this term is negative 1. Tapos for the other term naman, we have 2 raised to 1 over 1/4. So that will be raised to the 4. 2 to the 4 is 16 minus 1. So the answer is 15. Okay. So I hope you got that correctly. Let's have question number 2. What is the limit as x approaches pi over 2 of log of sine x plus 2x all over cosine of 2x? Okay, fast forwarding our timer, we have log of sine pi over 2. We're substituting x to our pi over 2 to our x variable. So we have 2 pi over 2. Tapos sa baba, cosine of 2 pi over 2. Okay. So these 2's will cancel. So then magka-cancel. So cosine of pi is actually here. So dito siya. No, negative 1 yung ating denominator. Tapos ito, sine of pi over 2. Dito siya. So that will be equal to a 1. Log of 1, understood base is 10. So that means we have 0 here. This log term will be 0. Tapos ang nandito na lang si pi. No? So 0 plus pi is pi. We have pi over negative 1. Therefore, the answer is negative pi. Okay, I hope you got that one correctly. Let's have question number 3. What is the limit as x approaches 0 of 1 minus cosine squared x all over 4x? Okay, fast forwarding our timer. Let's see, this 1 minus cosine squared is actually an identity. That is sine squared, no? So we have limit as x approaches 0. Although you might want to use your factoring, pwede rin siyang 1 plus cosine, 1 minus cosine. Anyway, if you recognize 1 minus cosine squared as sine squared x, very good. Yan. Tapos sa baba, meron kang 4x. Pwede din, di ba? So, kailangan mo ng isa pang x. Medyo mahirap pala pag gano'n, no? Kasi yung multiplier mo is x dito sa baba, no? Okay. Kailangan mo ng over x squared, no? Over x squared. So, you multiply this by x, multiply this by x also. Okay? So, ayan, para maging x squared, kailangan niya, no? Kasi magsasama sila. So, we have limit as x approaches 0. We have x over 4. Tingnan natin kung magiging legit yung ating value. So, we have sine x. Tapos, yung x squared na to, isasama natin siya sa naka-square. Okay? Kasi yun yung sine squared x over x squared. Okay? So now this fraction approaches 1. So we have 1 squared, which is 1. Pero ito, as x approaches 0, this will become 0 over 4. So that means this is equal to a 0. Okay? So the answer for our limit in question 3 is 0. Okay, that's for question number 3. Let's have question number 4. What is the limit as x approaches 0 of sine 4x times cosecant of 2x cubed? Okay, so we have sine 4x. Sulat pa rin natin yung limit as x approaches 0. Cosecant is 1 over sine. Okay, so 1 over sine. Sorry, dapat may parentheses. So sine of 2x cubed. So kailangan niya ay 2x cubed din, no? So 2x cubed. Okay, so multiplying that by 2x cubed. Tapos ito kailangan niya 4x. Okay. So si 4x tsaka si 2x cubed are not the same. So kukunin natin yung kanilang least common multiple nitong dalawang to. Kasi if you do that, you're multiplying by two different entities. So ito kailangan niya pa ng, kailangan multiply mo ng 2. Kailangan mo multiply ng 4. Tapos x cubed to. So kailangan dito ng isa pang x squared. Okay. Let's see if that one will work. We have limit as x approaches 0, combining this expression, we have sine 4x over 4x. Tapos meron tayong 1 over 2x squared. Tapos dito, may 4 tayo na pwedeng ilabas. Tapos we have 2x cubed over sine 2x cubed. Okay. Ay, sorry. I forgot the 4x here. Yan. So this one will become equal to 1 as x approaches 0. Same as this one. This will approach 1. So si 4, tsaka si 2. Okay. Actually, pwede palang 4 na lang ginamit natin. Ano? Anyway, nagka-cancel din yung 4 and 2. That will be 2 na lang. Okay. So we have limit of 2 over x squared. As x approaches 0, sila na lang natira. So as x approaches 0, ayan, parang napunta tayo sa infinite limits kasi the answer here will be positive infinity. Pero we say the limit does not exist. Okay? Ayan, or positive infinity kasi hindi na siya real number. Pero kung after tayo sa behavior, yan, positive infinity is our answer. Yan, both from the left or from the right. Okay? Yan. Okay, so we say the limit does not exist there. Okay, now I hope you got 4 out of 4 in this set of exercises. So as I end our presentation, once we accept our limits, we go beyond them. Have a good day. God bless everyone.